This is Rosen Institute's Your Law Firm, where Ned Days and Lee Rosen cover management, marketing, finance, and new technologies for building the practice you deserve. Rosen Institute members received this episode early, as well as exclusive segments on your mental health and an answer to a member question about taking clients with you when you leave your firm. Get access to everything you're missing at roseninstitute.com/join. Here's Ned Days.
It's time for your tech tip. I am going to speedrun a few useful apps and websites for you, some for desktop, some for mobile, some just good old web-based tools. First up is Wowable. If you don't have a website and need one, or need a convenient and attractive way to build out a page highlighting all of your wonderful reviews across maps, listings, directories, and social media, Wowable can solve that for you in a matter of minutes. You can give it a URL of a personal or business LinkedIn page, Instagram account, Facebook profile, Google Maps listing, or just upload photos and screenshots. You can also just work through their questionnaire to fill out your details and do everything manually if you want. Once you've entered your profiles and provided a few pieces of information, Wowable extracts photos and reviews and uses AI to write copy that sounds like what you've used on those other platforms. You can pick from a few templates and you are up and running. Depending on the plan, you get analytics, you can take bookings, you can use a custom domain, everything you would expect from a page builder app. Once the page is created, you can edit all of the headlines, copy, and photos after the fact, so you do have some control. You're not just stuck with whatever it generates. You can check it out at wowable.ai, that's wowable.ai. There is a free plan with the basic features and basic editing. There is a plan for a one-time payment of $50 that gets you full editing capabilities. You can use a custom domain and remove the Wowable branding. And then there's a $100 a month plan with all the bells and whistles, AI, SEO tools, whatever that happens to mean, lead capture and tracking. At that price, you would probably be better served by something a little more traditional, but the free and the one-time payment plans seem like decent options if you need something up this afternoon. Next up is Sun App. This is available for iOS and Android. It is a way to get an in-depth audio course generated for you on the fly for whatever you are interested in. The setup is quite interesting. They give you a prompt to paste into your favorite LLM that asks it to build a dossier about your interests based on your previous conversations. You then copy and paste that back into Sun and it builds out a profile for you. From there, they have some suggested audio courses based on your interest that the community has provided. These are usually in the 10 to 30 minute range, but you can also just type in whatever topic or product or idea you want, and it will spend a few minutes creating an audio program for you, broken into lessons and with all the normal playback controls, kind of like your own private podcast academy. Now, supposedly you can ask it questions about the course as you are listening. I gave that a shot and it didn't work. I thought maybe I had to hook up my AI account, so I tried connecting Claude and it said that is quote-unquote coming soon. It's also a little unclear as to how this is going to be monetized, if at all. You can just kind of use it however you want right now, so there are still a few question marks next to this one, but as somebody who does a lot more listening than I do reading, I found it surprisingly useful. There are other options here and quite a few new entries into this space. Google's Notebook LM can produce a podcast from the sources you give it. Spotify has just rolled out a similar feature where you can create a podcast from a daily brief, although it's not particularly easy to set up. It requires some command line utilities. Sun is really easy to use, very quick to generate audio, and in my experience did a reasonable job at the topics that I gave it. You can find it at sunapp.ai. Next is Recordly. This is a tool for recording your screen. Not all that exciting, but making decent screen recordings is one of those things that has always seemed a lot harder than it needed to be. For any kind of real control and polish, you needed a dedicated program, which was $100 or more, and as soon as you were done recording, you had to dive into editor mode and learn a whole video and compositing workflow if you wanted the screencasts to look nice. Recordly seems like it's finally giving us a really good default option for making better screencasts. It's available for Mac, Windows, and Linux. The interface is pretty easy. You pick your screen or a particular window. You can add your webcam and microphone or just grab system audio and then hit record. What I really like is that as soon as it is done recording, it makes a bunch of intelligent decisions about what it thinks you will want to do with the video. It automatically zooms in to where your cursor is. If you click on something or type, it makes your cursor much larger so it's easier to see. All the things that you would spend an hour on setting up for a 10-minute video. You have control over the normal features you would expect: multiple audio and video and effects layers, a plugin system, templates and overlays. But what I like best is that I hardly have to touch that stuff. The videos feel like they are about 95% done the minute I hit the stop button. Recordly is completely free and open source, and you can find it at recordly.dev. And the last one is a Mac-only app, and a little bit of a specialty tool, but for the three of you nerds who find this kind of thing useful, I think you will really like it. It's called SuperKey, and what it does is allow you to search for text anywhere on your screen. If you have ever looked on with frustration as somebody attempted to find something on a web page, and it took all of your self-control not to yell at them, to just hit Control F or Command F to bring up the find bar so they could just type out the word they were looking for, you will love this. It basically gives you that same functionality anywhere on your screen. It OCRs your entire screen contents and highlights the matches, allowing you to cycle through them and even click on them with your keyboard. You can find it at superkey.app. There is a free trial, and it's a one-time payment of $16. It might seem a little steep for such a simple concept, but if you use it as much as I do, totally worth it. I'm Ned Days, and that's your tech tip. And now for your moment of concise advice. For the past several decades, really, law firms could get away with being 5 or 10 years behind just about every other industry when it came to things like systems, technology, and marketing. If somebody needed legal work done, they had to come to you or another attorney who was also 5 to 10 years behind the times. They couldn't go to some smarter, faster business down the street that happened to do legal work better. The gatekeeping in place meant that the work had to go through a licensed attorney, and attorneys in general weren't terribly eager to jump on new ideas and technologies. And having that moat in front of us meant that we were able to drag our feet in a way that would have been catastrophic to businesses in almost any other field. But that has been changing pretty rapidly in the past couple of years, and the moat is mostly gone. Part of that is AI, not so much people using it as individuals, although that is happening, but mostly firms who are using it can be way more flexible than firms who aren't. And as venture funding and non-attorney ownership becomes a reality in some jurisdictions, we are seeing things shift dramatically. But to be fair, AI is only part of it. The bigger shift is that people now expect more from every single business they deal with, and they don't carve out an exception for law firms like they used to because they just had no other option. Your client can walk up to a food truck and pay with a tap of their phone, get a text when the order is ready, and get another text message asking them how the food was later on. Then that same person hires you for something that matters far more to their life. They hand over a serious amount of money, and we all too often drag them through a process that feels like it hasn't been updated in 20 years, even though we think it is pretty darned modern, for legal work anyway. So the first thing I want you to do is to change who you measure yourself against. Up until pretty recently, the smartest move or the best tool we had was to watch what the other law firms in our area were doing, copy what was working, and avoid what didn't. And that is still worth doing. I'm not saying you should be ignoring the legal industry entirely. You should know what your competitors offer and what the going service level is in your market, because that is the floor that you have to clear at the moment. That is no longer a baseline or the average that you should be shooting for. That's going to be the bare minimum. There are some practices doing wild cutting edge stuff, but if we are talking about the average small to medium sized estate planning practice in a mid-sized metro area, chances are if you are just keeping up with the average, you are behind what other businesses are expected to have to do to compete. So you should really be looking at these other practices as the floor rather than the ceiling. Firms traditionally cluster inside of a pretty narrow band of behavior and pretty rarely step outside of it. So if the best you ever aspire to be is a slightly better version of the firm across town, you have capped your ambition at marginally above average, which, hey, I was a perennial personal best trophy winner when I played t-ball as a child, so people in glass houses and all that, but I just want to set the stage in as honest a way as I can. The second thing, which is maybe a little harder to grapple with conceptually, is that we have to stop segregating the legal world in general and our firms in particular into this separate mental space where they are often a vacuum, completely unaffected by the rest of the world. Most of us keep two completely separate standards running at the same time. There is the standard we hold every other business to as paying customers, where we expect things to be fast and easy and pleasant. And then there's this totally distinct, much lower standard that we accept for how a law firm is allowed to operate, because we are just so different after all. But you just can't afford to keep those two things in separate boxes anymore, because your clients already stopped keeping them apart. So start paying attention to your own life as a customer, because you are surrounded by a lot of free research every day. When the dentist texts you a reminder so that you don't miss the appointment, or you get some kind of one-tap link where you can view documents or sign documents without having to create a new account in some portal, ask yourself whether your clients ever wonder where their matter stands and have no easy way to find out. I'm going to embarrass myself here, but I order from Domino's Pizza somewhat regularly, and they text me at various stages of my pizza's life cycle, when it's going in the oven, who's preparing it. It is overkill for a pizza and maybe even a little cheesy, if you'll forgive the pun, but I know some of you have not a single week pass where a client or two is calling you to get an update on a case and interrupting you, and your little piggy bank of goodwill with them is going down, when a proactive call or even an automated text message or email could have avoided all of that entirely. When you reorder something in 2 taps because the company already has your information, ask why a returning client of yours has to fill in the same intake forms they filled out 2 years ago. When a company makes paying them effortless, ask how many hoops you make your clients jump through just to give you money. And again, you're not looking for legal ideas, you are looking at operations, customer service, and technology in totally unrelated businesses and asking yourself, could I do a version of that here? And I do not have all of the answers here, but you are smarter than I am and you can figure this out. And you know your clients and what they expect and what appeals to them. If I go shopping for sunglasses online, I get a lot of sites that will let me put them on my face virtually using my webcam. I get to see what they look like on me before I even buy. Now, if we step way back and think about the core of what is happening, what they are actually doing is they are letting the buyer feel what it is like to own the solution before they commit. So what could your version of that be? Can you build something like a walkthrough or a sample or a visual that lets your client feel what it is like to have their problem solved before they sign up with you? Because you may very well be selling the most expensive thing your client is going to buy all year, and you are asking them to do it completely blind. Or think about products that are offered as some kind of custom one-off version of what the company sells. A made-to-measure shirt, a pair of orthopedic inserts where you use an app to scan your feet for the perfect fit. If we are being honest, this is usually just adjusting 4 or 5 variables on the back end based on a template they already have, but it feels totally bespoke to the end user. Now, a lot of clients assume that a firm hands them the same boilerplate that everybody gets, and a lot of the time they're not completely wrong. So can you give your client the feeling of something genuinely tailored to them, even if it's just moving a couple of sliders on the software? I appreciate that those may feel a little out there, so you can start off a lot more simply. Think about the businesses you personally dealt with in the last few days, the ones that made something easy or fast or pleasant, and then walk through your own client's experience, start to finish, from the first phone call to the case closing. Find one single piece where your client gets treated worse than they got treated by some random food truck they ate at over the weekend. That is your weak link at the moment. Don't try to fix everything because you will get overwhelmed and nothing will get accomplished. Pick one, fix that one thing, and then you can work on the next one. That's your moment of concise advice. Wrapping up from Jacksonville, thank you for joining us today. Never forget that what you are doing is important work. Small, consistent steps focusing on marketing, management, and technology are how we build better firms. And you are 1 week closer to the practice you deserve. Until next time, I'm Ned Days.
Thanks for listening to Your Law Firm. Subscribe to the Friday File at roseninstitute.com and join thousands of other lawyers who are working on instead of in their businesses. You'll find safe, successful, actionable approaches for transforming your practice. Join us today at roseninstitute.com.